Good evening and welcome to another edition of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson. I'm your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Hello, everybody.
And we have another exciting night for you and an amazing lineup of guests. Before we get started with our guests, we have a few announcements. I want Rhonda to give us an update on the anthology. She didn't know I was going to ask for that, but
I know.
on the anthology and how that's going.
Well, the anthology is going well. We're going well. We've been getting sales, which is a great thing. Right now we're working on getting more reviews for it. And we actually are going to be promoted by Mocha Girls Read in May and June. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's going to be huge. And the paperback, we started off as an ebook, but now we have the paperback. So if you are still that type of reader like myself, who likes to hold the book as you're reading, the paperback is available. If you know one of the authors, you may want to go through them to get the book, so that way you can get a signed copy, or you can contact me and you can get a signed copy that way as well. Or you can just order from Amazon, either ebook or paperback, and help us to send some kids to college, because that's what this is all about. Every book that we sell, a portion of that book goes toward the Meet the World Foundation Scholarship Fund. And we are looking forward to sending some kids to college. We may not be able to fund their entire education, but there's so much that these kids need to pay for. I mean, books, clothing, food, technology. There's all things that they still need to pay for, and we want to be able to help them with that, because that's the way we empower our kids, so that way they don't have to worry about begging or going without, because we as a community are helping them, and that's what this is all about. So please, please, please go out and get the book. It's called A New Renaissance, A Celebration of African-American Fiction, and it is available on Amazon, or you can contact us directly and get a signed copy. But we can't wait to hear from you, and let us know what you think of the book.
Okay, congratulations. I know how exciting it is to release a book. I hope to do a couple myself before the end of the year. So a couple more and add to my total. So just a couple of housekeeping notes. The Black Authors Matter TV Awards voting has started. It started yesterday for the winners in the 16 categories. So you all voted for the nominees. We announced the finalists last week, and the voting for the finalists started yesterday. And we already have over 700 ballots that have been cast in 24 hours. So you all are really voting. And I can't wait to see who wins in all these categories. I'm sure that the finalists are excited too. If you want to know who all the finalists are, we pinned the video with all of the finalists to the top of the Facebook page for the National Black Book Festival. So if you want to see that and see everybody who made the finals in all the categories, you can go there and view it. The award show is May 17th at 7. The whole show will be just the awards, and we're excited about that. So we have some other announcements, but we're going to go ahead and bring on our first guest, and I'll give the rest of the announcements at the end of our first interview. So tonight we have, for our first guest, we have Denise Woods, whose book is new and is called The Power of Voice. And Denise is a motivational speaker, and she also is labeled as Hollywood's elite vocal coach.
Oh, okay.
So I want to find out what that means. What does the elite vocal coach do? And do you well, first of all, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a pleasure to be here, ladies. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for being here.
So you're Hollywood's elite vocal coach. Do you coach people for singing, speaking, or both, or just what do you do as a vocal coach?
Excellent question. Excellent question. I work with the speaking voice, not the singing voice. I could, because I sang with the New York City Opera, but I specialize in the speaking voice, articulation, breath, vocal presentation, making sure that your presentation is not only understood by your audience, but felt by your audience. So I'm a public speaking coach as well.
Awesome. Awesome. So
Oh,
what is it that people need to keep in mind when they're speaking? I mean, because my daughter is an actress, and we talk a lot about diction and vocalization, but what are some things that people just may not think about? They just talking and they don't realize what they have, what goes into that.
The number one thing, ladies, is breath. We don't breathe. In order for you to have voice, in order for your voice to come out, breath has to go in. So
Right.
we have to take the time to breathe, because all voice is breath that has passed through the vocal folds, causing them to vibrate, and it produces sound. And so if you have no breath, you essentially have no voice. I say breath is to the voice what gasoline is to a car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
okay.
Right. Okay. You have no gas, your car goes nowhere. And so typically people don't breathe because we feel that we don't have the time. We can't take the time. But I say, just like you need a breath as the speaker, your audience needs the breath as well, because we breathe with you. So that's the first thing. And just to add an addendum to what I was saying, authenticity. Authenticity. Sometimes we feel that when we speak to a group, depending on who the group is, that we can't bring our full selves to the table. So how do we do that? How do you bring your full self to the table? Because in this day and age, it's not just what you say. Because if I needed information, I could just Google. Like if I wanted to know about you ladies, I would Google. If you wanted to know about me, you Google me. But you want to know, you want to have a sense of who I am.
Yeah.
So that happens with my voice. That happens when I bring my full authentic self to the conversation.
Okay, now, most people probably, well, do you encounter hesitance from people who think they don't need vocal coaching for speaking?
Absolutely. And that is
And
their
what are
prerogative.
their objections? Is it pride? Is it that they feel like they have it all figured out already? They don't think it's really all that much, it's not that big a deal, or just what kind of objections do you get?
I run into all kinds, but mostly it's people don't want to lose that sense of authenticity. They feel that if I study with someone, they're going to tell me the book sense or the book knowledge of how to speak. And I don't want to speak that way. It would be tantamount to a person who plays an instrument by ear and plays very well. And you say, well, I think you need to go take a few music lessons. And they go, why? I already know how to play the piano. I already know how to sing. What do I need singing lessons for? What do I need lessons for? Because the more you learn about your instrument, the more you learn what you can do with your instrument. It gives you choices. And so that's what my practice is based on. It's not trying to take anything away. It's adding information. It's adding tools to your toolkit.
Absolutely. It's interesting because I had a focus group not long ago, and people were saying, well, why do people need a book coach? Why would people need a writing coach? And I feel like a lot of the principles that you just talked about with acting and vocalizing is the same thing I tell people when it comes to writing. You may be a good writer, but you can always get better, or there are different techniques that you can use. Even Michael Jordan had a coach, and
Exactly.
no matter what industry you're in, it's always good to have a coach, somebody who can tell you your blind spots.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. For my initial book, my first book, and I say my first book because it won't be my last book. I had a ghostwriter. I had a ghostwriter because I'm a decent writer, but I had never written a book. And so now that I have written a book, believe it or not, when I write my second book, I'm going to get a ghostwriter again, because I really just liked that sense of collaboration. My ghostwriter was about, we bounced things off of each other, ideas off of each other. And I love collaboration. I think it's much more beneficial and fruitful for me artistically to have a collaborator. I don't like to do things in a vacuum. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Okay. So your book is called The Power of Voice.
it is.
And what things about the voice do you cover in the book?
I start with relaxation because that is the hallmark, the foundation of an instrument. I use a metaphor of a violin or a string instrument. When you tighten up the string on a violin, the pitch goes higher. And usually in Hollywood, this sound, the score, the music score people, the people that score the film, they typically use these high-pitched kind of sounds to indicate tension when an intense moment is coming. And so what I want to do is allow people to understand how to relax the body, how to breathe, so that your listener is comfortable. If your voice is comfortable, your voice tones are dulcet and inviting, it invites your audience. And so breath, relaxation, the ability to use your voice and release your voice in a free way, and articulation, opening up your mouth and utilizing the tongue in a way that people can really clearly, very distinctly hear particular sounds of speech. It doesn't mean that you're trying to sound a particular way or sound like someone else other than yourself, because that's a huge drawback from a lot of my clients. I don't want to sound anything other than what I am. You know, it's bringing yourself to it, but bringing the best version of yourself that you can possibly bring. And so that's articulation. So that I believe, ladies, that the story is the star. Not you, the story. And you as writers know what I'm talking about. The narrative is important. And we are there to facilitate the narrative. And so if any of my little habits get in the way, that take away from the story, then I'm going to want to correct that. And it doesn't mean it takes anything away from me. It just means that I get out of the way, I get out of my stuff,
Yes.
and I allow the writer's voice to come through.
Oh my goodness, I'm stealing that from you. But
Yeah.
I'm credit for it. The story is the star.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to tell my clients when I'm editing their stories, and I'm telling them that they need to add something or they need to expand on that. And they say that I'm trying to stifle them, and I'm going to let them know it's not about you.
That's right.
The story is the star.
Absolutely. And I share that. And I share that because we're community. I get things from you. You get things from me. We're storytellers. You do it on the page. I do it from the perspective of the visual. I use images when I tell story, and so do you. I mean, you use adjectives. I use images. I want people to be engaged in a sensorial kind of way. And so when I tell stories, I get out of the way and let the story. I usually come, and I did this before I came today, ladies. I said, I pray. I said, more of thee, less of me.
Yeah.
I want, and thee means, for me, it means God, but sometimes it also means the ancestors who have gone before us, and we're telling their stories and they're speaking through us. We want to get out of the way and let them speak, let those voices be heard.
Okay, now you mentioned that you were in the opera, I didn't hear the whole thing, but tell us about that. And are you a soprano?
Yes, I'm mezzo soprano, and
Okay.
came with the New York City Opera when I was 12. From the
Wow.
time I was 12 to the time I was 14, actually 15. And I just loved opera. The New York City Opera came around to my junior high school looking for kids. I started out as a singer. I sang in the Black church in the choir. you
Yeah,
know,
that's
gospel
that's
music.
the grooming ground
That is
for most of our singers
not just
because
singers, not just singers, but it
and
was
speakers.
and speakers, there you go. And
Yes.
speakers, baby, because the ability to be the keynote speaker at an annual day or to deliver the welcome address when you had a church, a neighboring church, this was our practice ground. And
Mhm.
because I went to a wonderful historic Black church in Harlem, we had Broadway and Carnegie Hall and the symphony. Our church would take outings to downtown to Broadway to see plays. The first play I saw was when I was 8 years old, and it was with Pearl Bailey in Hello Dolly, the musical
Oh,
Hello Dolly.
wow.
And
Mhm.
I remember being 8 years old, sitting in that balcony. I'll never forget it, thinking, I want to do that. And that's where it hit me. I was sitting there in the mezzanine, and the little brass railing was there, and I was sitting like this at the railing going, oh, it was something so magical about live theater and that music, and that the same way opera had that effect on me when the orchestra in the pit started playing, I immediately started crying, and I didn't know why. And it was just something about live music and that energy of being in an audience with creativity. And I have to say, it's not just theater or the symphony or opera. Alvin Ailey's dancers have the very same effect on me. I
Yeah,
just weep.
Yeah, beautiful.
the way they move. I mean, it's not even just dancing; it's poetry. It's the
It's
way
like an organism, the way that I've only seen it once, but it was really just amazing.
in the organism or orgasm.
No, organism.
Organism.
That's
An
what word
organ.
I used the word I wanted to use. I wasn't
Yes.
even thinking organism. Now you
I was
take, I mean,
kidding, I'm
orgasm. I
kidding,
wasn't
I'm
thinking
kidding.
orgasm. You took my mind in a whole nother
I-
direction.
I totally know what you mean, because it's like all of these entities coming together
Yes.
in one unit and
Right.
on a stage, and in
Right.
tandem.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Yes,
Yeah, it's amazing.
it is.
So when you were singing opera as a child, were you considered a prodigy during that
No,
time?
no,
No.
I was not considered a prodigy. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until I read my first Shakespeare play when I was a teenager, and I got it. I understood it. Who at 14, growing up in the projects on the Lower East Side of New York, and then the Baptist church, going up to Harlem, and then you read Shakespeare and you just get it. I just got it. And so that's where my prodigious kind of proclivity came into play, because I got into the High School of Performing Arts. I auditioned for music and art and got into for singing because I was a singer. And then I went to the High School of Performing Arts that Fame was based on, because I love the spoken word. I just loved classical text. I loved the metaphor in classical text. I just got it. I understood it on a really, really deep level. And my mom would say later, she said, when you were growing up, all the church ladies would say, she's been here before. You know that there's something special about that one. She's been here before. It
I
just
was just going to ask you, when did I know you said you kind of took to it, but how old do you think you were when you realized I really love the spoken word?
I think it was when I was 15, in the 10th grade. In the 10th grade. How many kids die to read out loud in class when they come around to them? When it's your turn to read around, usually when the teacher comes, usually kids are like, oh, I was like, I'll do it.
Yeah, I was one of those ones that always volunteered to read aloud.
You did too.
I like to show off that I was a good reader.
Me
That's why.
Me too.
So, girls, we are We had simpatico. We were those girls.
Yeah.
There was some element of that. There was some element of that. I did like to show off the fact that I knew the word.
You know what made you sit down and write the book, The Power of Voice? I mean, what led you to doing that?
I had been working in Hollywood for several years, and prior to that, I taught at Juilliard. I went to Juilliard in the 70s. I graduated in 79. I was there when Robin Williams was there, and then I came back and was asked to join the faculty in 92. And Viola Davis was just graduating then. I taught Anthony Mackie. I taught Jessica Chastain. I taught from 1992 until 2000. And then I was invited to head the speech department at California Institute of the Arts in 2000. So I left New York and went to and moved to California, where I still live. And in 2012, I decided to retire. And I had put 20 years into higher education, and I decided that I wanted to devote more time to Hollywood because I had started getting a really wonderful clientele and a great client list. And I owe a lot of that to Taraji P. Henson, who really just sort of introduced me to everybody. Once she discovered me, she was like, oh, okay, Denise, you've got to meet this one, you've got to meet that one. And so, and my client list just grew. And then I started saying, what I'm giving to people in Hollywood, I really want to share with everyday people. That's what it was. I knew that I was making the difference in actors' lives and their ability to tell great stories in film. And I thought, I want to do that with everyday people so that they can affect the lives and the people around them. I had an actor one time who came to me and said, Denise, you didn't just change my voice as an actor, but you changed the dynamic and how I speak to my children. I didn't realize, because he was an ex-police officer, New York City police officer turned actor and military man. And he didn't realize the stern impact that his voice was having on his children and how they were afraid of him quite a lot, because of his voice. It had nothing to do with his personality. It was his voice. And so when he shared that to me, I said, I gotta take this out of the Hollywood and out of the academia and bring it to just regular everyday people.
Wow.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That is beautiful.
And I think people don't realize, I'm retired Army, and I was public affairs in the Army.
Wow.
What I did not do the broadcast side. I was the print journalist side. But there were a number of people who had to go through the broadcast journalism training, and they never even made it to the training because you have to have a voice test. And many of them couldn't pass the voice test. And some people thought, oh, they're just trying to make me sound like something I'm not. And I'm glad that we're having this discussion because it shows a lot of people that this is not just the military doing this to you. If you look at journalists who are on TV, broadcasters, they have their broadcaster voice and then they have their everyday voice. Right. And what I'm hearing as I'm listening to you is that orators, actors, and so forth, they also have that voice that they have when they're on, and then there's their everyday voice. Yes. And we have to know the difference, and it doesn't take anything away from who we are. Absolutely. To be able to differentiate how we speak in certain settings.
That's right. And I think it's just like having what I say, we don't just have one pair of shoes. We don't just have one dress. Right. Depending on where we're going and who we're going to be around, we pick and choose how we're going to dress. What's happening, and I think it's happening in our culture, it's happening even the way we dress and how we navigate, the lines are starting to be blurred just a little bit more. So we don't have good voice and my everyday voice. Do you know what I mean? Everyday voice is creeping into the good voice spaces, as are everyday clothes creeping into the red carpet spaces. So it really is, it's a sign of the time, and our voices are just a reflection of that, because it's a relaxed kind of way in which we engage, so that we can bring people to us and not make them feel like I'm here and you're there. And we can hear that a lot in broadcasters now, because it doesn't sound like, okay, I'm here with the evening news, it really sounds like the girl next door.
Mhm.
And I'm really a proponent of that when people have dialects. Again, if it doesn't upstage the story, if it's not distracting, if it doesn't take away from the narrative, so what if you're from the South? I like it. Bring it to it. A lot of times people wouldn't get jobs in larger markets because they had a Southern accent. And now that's becoming less and less an issue. And I welcome it, because we don't all look alike. Why should we all sound alike?
Absolutely. I'm going to have to buy your book for my daughter. She has a great speaking voice, but because she's in that industry, she needs this book.
Thank you. Thank you. And is she in New York, LA?
No, actually, right now she's in Atlanta.
Oh,
Yes, Hollywood South.
that's the new
Yeah,
LA.
lots
That's the new
happening
LA.
in Atlanta. And there used to be, and I guess there still is, but maybe not as much, because radio has changed, has evolved so much. There's so many platforms. But there used to be, especially with males, I don't even remember the people ever saying as a female radio voice, but there used to be like a male voice that was like the perfect voice for the radio. Sexy sounding, so manly, very manly. Normally it was a deep voice, but that's natural. I don't know if people can craft their voice for that, or they may be able to.
Well, I think I like to tell my clients let's start where you are. Let's make the best voice and the best version of you, as opposed to saying, I want that Barry White kind of sound, or because I come from New York, so it's the number one market in television and radio. It's a huge market, and there was a sound, particularly in Black radio.
Yes.
Back in the day, there was a sound, that Quiet Storm kind of sound.
Yeah.
But ladies.
Yeah.
Also for women, that female sultry voice as well.
Yes.
I think we have to sort of crack those stereotypes and create a narrative. Again, if it doesn't take away from what you're doing, if it adds to what you're doing, because if in fact you are doing something like the Quiet Storm during the sleep hours, when it's time to go to bed, to do whatever you do when it's time to go to bed, in addition to sleep, you want a voice that's conducive to that, So again, we go back to what we were saying, what you were saying, Rhonda, about it supporting the narrative. What the voice should support the narrative.
Man, we could talk to you forever, but
I would love it. I'm having such a good time, ladies.
I just followed you on Instagram, so I'm going to make sure that I'm going to continue to stay in touch, because I'm really enjoying this conversation. But unfortunately, we're at the end, so I guess I just need you to remind us where we can find your book.
And show us a copy of the book again.
Absolutely. It's called The Power of Voice, a guide to making yourself heard. And the forward is by Mahershala Ali.
Oh, I love him.
Don't you? Oh, he's like my bonus son. And people have contributed to the book, like Halle Berry, Soledad O'Brien, Greg Louganis. Remember Greg Louganis?
Yes. The swimmer.
Diver.
Diver.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're all my clients. I have professional athletes. I have CEOs of Fortune 500 companies that have contributed to the book to tell us the power of their voices. How I have a chapter called Trauma is a Bitch. and how trauma really sort of affects the voice and how we can rise above it. But you can find me at speakitclearly.com on all of the social media handles, as well as my website is speakitclearly.com.
I'm going to have to buy 2 books now. I need one for myself because I'm in public affairs. I talk to media all the time, and we do shows like this. So I need it, and my daughter needs it.
It's on Amazon, and I also have the audiobook version, ladies.
Oh, okay. That'd be interesting to listen to.
It would be interesting because I read it. I did. I read it. I read the book, and in addition to it's part anecdotal, I talk about my story. In addition to what I've shared here, I share other things about my time at Juilliard and what that was like, the racism that I had to face and marginalization that I had to face in that, very staunch classical school. So I talk about it. I leave no stone unturned. And then at the end of every chapter, I give you exercises. So it's not just an anecdotal book or a memoir. It's a how-to as well. So you get a lot of bang for your buck.
Love it. Love it.
Thank you.
Oh, just real quick, I have to tell you, Mahershala Ali, and he doesn't know this, but we did a movie together.
I'm impressed.
I had 30 seconds in the Green Book.
I was the dialect coach. I was his dialect coach on the Green Book.
Oh,
I was his dialect
wow.
coach on Green Book. Yes, I've been blessed. And it's reasons why like that, I've had these opportunities to change voices for actors because he completely transformed.
He did.
Right. Right. Yes.
I want to be able to make people comfortable with finding their true voices. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate you being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV and continue to help people find their voice and the power within.
Thank you. The power of voice.
All right.
On Amazon or any other platform.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too, ladies. This was wonderful. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I apologize for going off camera. I had my window open because my smoke detector was beeping. I guess the battery needs to be changed. So in order to stop that, I opened my window. Well, I have some neighbors who are not, they're noisy. So then I had to close my window. So I don't know. I hope my smoke alarm doesn't start, and maybe y'all won't be able to hear it. That's what I'm hoping. It just beeps, when the battery runs down. We have our next guest coming up, but I do want to do a couple of announcements that I wasn't able to finish at the top of the show. The National Black Book Festival will be in person this year, October 20th through the 22nd. Standard registration is open. We are 75% booked as far as vendor space. So if you want to attend,
I have to talk to my people. We have to be there.
Yeah, people are really signing up. And we have our next book club kickback, May 24th, with Mary Monroe, author Mary Monroe, and her new book, Empty Vows. So we'll be reading this book that night. So get your copy, either download it or purchase your copy. She's going to be on the show when we discuss it, like we always do with the book club kickback. And we have 2 books to give away, but I'm going to wait till Rhonda comes back on because she has to check the messages to see who wins, because I can't do double duty like that. So I'm going to wait till after.
I'm coming back.
Are you back? Okay. So, well, let me go ahead and do the trivia then, since Rhonda is back. We have 2 books. The first one is called Miss Chloe. The subhead is A Literary Friendship with Toni Morrison, and it's by author A.J. Verdelle, Verdelle. The trivia question to win this book is: the author teaches creative writing at what HBCU? So the author of the book, A.J. Verdelle, teaches creative writing at what HBCU? And the second one that we're giving away, this is called Isn't Her Grace Amazing? This is I think it's going to be in hardcover, but I'm not. Yes, it's going to be in hardcover. This is an advanced reading copy. It's paperback, but it's a history of the women who changed gospel music, and it's
Nice.
by Cheryl Wills, and she will be on the show on our May 3rd show. But to win this book, all you need to do is name one of the women featured in this book. So you should be able to find someone's name in the synopsis, and you can win that. So
Tell me the name of the book.
the name of the book is Isn't Her Grace Amazing? And because I have my green screen perfected, now stuff doesn't fade out or phase out. I don't have the halo, and I just feel I'm excited. I figured out. I got one of those green screens that go on the back of your chair. Took me a while to figure it out, but it works. So we're bringing on our next guest, her name is Pamela Harris. She is a young adult fiction author, and she has a book called When You Look Like Us. And we'd like to welcome her to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Being a guest on the show. So do you have a copy
it's
of
an
your book?
honor. I do. It happens to be right here.
I thought your
And
cover was so
here's my-
interesting. And
Yeah,
tell us,
cover.
hold it up,
Tell us
hold it
something
up
about
so
it.
we can see it. And tell us sort of the message in the cover.
Yes, so this was actually a really neat experience. I'm a debut author, and I talked to a few other authors, and they mentioned that they usually don't really get a say in their cover choice, or it usually ends up being something they're not too excited about. But what was interesting for me is my editor reached out to me and had a list of a couple of artists. And he wanted my opinion, he let me see their portfolio, and he was like, well, whose voice, like, who do you like the most? And it was a talented young man named Shane Ramos. And we had a phone call, and he asked me, like, what are some of your favorite colors? Like, what is the vibe of this book? What would you like to see? And I remember growing up, I was an avid reader. I'm an only child, so that's what I did. I just read all the time. But it was rare for me growing up to see people that look like me. And I was saying that I just want to see a big, beautiful Black face, full on, just staring straight at us.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that the main character was prominent, and you see a glimpse of his missing sister up there too as well. But I just wanted to be like this character, or just kind of staring down into your soul. And they showed me like the idea, the tentative look of it, and I'm like, I love it. Let's go. So yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Message to have your character looking straight on, especially with it being a Black man, because often Black men carry the stigma of being scary, basically, or
yes.
So the fact that you have him looking straight on, it's like he's staring that intimidation factor into the face.
I love that. Yes, Dr. Rhonda, absolutely. I think you said it better than I could have, and I'm going to start stealing your words. So thank you.
Oh, I'm glad to help you. You can steal that if you need to.
Okay, thank you.
So your book is young adult fiction, and
Yes.
it's hardcover. It's not most of the time young adult fiction tends to be paperback. So, and you're a debut author and you got a hardcover. That is amazing. That's
It is.
not
Yes,
necessarily
I'm excited
common.
about that. Yes, earlier this year, actually, we had a paperback release too. So I have a paperback floating around here somewhere, but the hard copy came out early this year, and I was surprised. I wasn't expecting that I was going to get into paperback too as well. So that was a nice little present for me earlier this year, like a belated Christmas present. Yeah.
And I also see you have that famous portrait behind you.
Oh, I do. I do.
What's the author? Is it Norman Rockwell? Yes.
Yes.
Norman Rockwell.
Absolutely.
So,
both of these paintings, actually, because this is a canvas blown up of my book, and this painting, they're both presents from my cousin. This was my present for graduating with my PhD, and she wanted me to have something nice to put in my office. So yeah. And she knew, because I have my PhD in education, and so she just thought this, and I do a lot of work with like equity and social justice, and I just thought it was a really nice, sweet present from her.
Okay, and you are a formal school counselor too.
I am. Primarily worked in the middle school for 7 years in a small rural town in Virginia, where they had a pork plant, Smithfield Pork, like the ham, the bacon products. I would be stuck behind pig trucks on my way to work, and it was like a one-way road, and it was not pleasant being in that long drive behind a pig truck. But I loved it. I loved it. Yes.
I'm from Newport News, so you in Smithfield? Is that where you taught?
Are you in Newport? My book is
I'm
set
not in
Newport
Newport News now, but that's where I'm from.
I'm,
So your
I
book
was-
is set in Newport News?
My book is set in Newport News. I was born in Newport News. Yes.
I love the Virginia connection. My first book was actually set in Virginia Beach.
Really? It's a small world. I love it. Yes.
Yeah. So I may know it's probably your parents. Are your parents from Newport News?
Yes. My mom's side, we're like Hunts, Murphys. So, but yeah, those are like
I
the
probably
prominent
know
last
some of
names.
your people.
You might. Providence Baptist Church. Yes.
Oh, Providence Baptist
Yes.
Church. Our choir sang there. I'm not kidding. I was in the
They're
church,
featured in my book. I give a shout out to Providence Baptist Church.
Our Zion Baptist Church. Zion Baptist.
That's so
was my home
great.
church.
That is so great.
That's my dad pastored, and we used to go to Providence Baptist Church. So it's
my goodness.
Small world.
Small world.
It so is. Yes.
So the setting for your book is Newport News, and what's the storyline? What's the
Yes.
storyline?
I like to consider When You Look Like Us to be like a noir, a mystery that's set in my former hood. It's about a teenager, a young man named Jay Murphy, whose older sister goes missing in a neighborhood where missing Black girls are really overlooked and ignored. So he realizes, if I want to figure out what's going on with my sister, I'm going to have to step up to the plate and figure it out and get the job done myself. So yeah, so it's basically, I knew growing up that I love to watch like mystery TV shows and movies, but it was rare to see the, main person be a Black person. Usually they were kind of like secondary characters.
Right.
So I was
they
really
might have
excited.
been servants.
Exactly.
Delivery
main character is always
people,
a white girl.
chauffeurs.
Yes. And
Yeah.
and I just thought it would be neat, like, hey, we love mysteries too. So, let's feature a Black boy and let's feature it like talking about something meaningful that's, going on in the world, but keep it engaging. So at least like, readers may stick around and want to flip the pages to figure out the mystery.
I like it.
Yeah, I did too. So did you draw, what did you draw from? Did you draw from your students, experiences as a counselor when you were writing the book?
I would say they definitely influenced me a lot. When I was a school counselor, a lot of times I would have students, primarily Black boys, were sent to my office, with concerns that they weren't doing well in their English classes and, saying like, oh, we might need to enroll them in reading intervention. They're not really doing well. And I found out that most of the time it wasn't that they didn't understand what was going on in class. They just didn't care about the books that were being assigned to them. And so, as a school counselor, I was like, I spent a lot of time, trying to tell my students that there was like this big world out there besides this little town that they were in. A lot of their family were working in that pork plant, and they were nice, hardworking people. But I wanted them to know that there was a world beyond the town that we were in, where there were Confederate flags everywhere. Almost on every street corner, and so. Basically, when I was encouraging my students, I realized that in talking about their dreams, I was putting a cap on mine because I've always wanted to be a writer. And I think they inspired me to realize that the stories that I was writing, the ones that featured Black characters, I kept them to myself. But when I was in school for writing, I wrote a lot about what I thought people wanted me to write about. Like my characters were primarily white because that's what I read growing up. And I feel like my students gave me permission to be brave and to tell their stories. So yeah, they definitely had a lot to do with that.
That's a very powerful statement that you were actually even listening and paying attention to your students, because there's so many students who feel unheard. And the fact that
Yes,
you drew from them, and not only drew from it, but you listened and,
absolutely.
and then wrote your story. So that's a very powerful statement that you just made.
Thank you. Yes. And I miss my students. It's so like neat to see some of them. Sometimes they'll catch up with me on social media and they're like grown. And I'm like, what happened? You were a baby last time I saw you. Like, who is this person? Yes.
Okay, now Lydia Brew, very very loyal viewer. She wanted to know the name of the book again. So I know it's right behind you, but can you hold the cover up for me?
Yes. When You Look Like Us.
I just think the cover is just
Beautiful.
awesome. Now,
I
is
love
the
it,
young
yeah.
man on the cover, is he a real person or is he like a composite of
I
like
think,
based on
you
the
know what's
artist?
interesting? Yeah. When we had the cover, I had an option of 4 different young men, like portraits. And to
Okay.
me, you know, and I was very particular too. I wanted to make sure that the melanin was right. Because, you know, like it's all, you know, it's the same thing too. We often don't really see like, you know, beautiful dark skinned people on the cover too as well. So I was very
Mhm.
intentional of making sure that I selected the young man with the brown, beautiful skin, like mahogany. So yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not wondering if it is a composite. I just know I have 4 different faces to choose, and
It's
he
a
was the one that
composite of
called
those
me.
4 different faces. That's what it is.
It could
Yes, yes.
Could be. Well, I just think it's covers are interesting to me, just how they're developed. And because I'm an author too, when I'm looking at what do I want to do on my covers, I have to go through a process. Sometimes it's stock photos, sometimes it's a rent. If it's a, for children, it may be based on some real kids, but I don't
Yeah.
want to, I'm not trying to duplicate them. I'm trying to, make it have an idea. Or like on one of my books, it was actually about 7 actual women where the artist had to do sketching, a painting of
Yeah.
each individual to make it look like her and make it kid friendly for a children's book. So I just covers, people say you don't judge a book by its cover, but you really do. Covers are what make you pick up a book or not pick it up.
Exactly. I agree with that. I agree with that.
If a cover is whack, you're gonna keep moving. That's just
Yes. Put the book back.
You have a book event coming up. You're going to be a keynote speaker.
I am through the College of William and Mary, actually where I got my PhD, and I've actually returned back to the college to work as a professor in the counselor education program. And there's a center that does a lot for youth literacy, and they found out about my work, what I've been doing with my book, and my career as an author, because they know me as like Dr. Harris, professor for counseling.
Right.
So when they were seeing, news and everything about my book, they were like, oh my gosh, you would be a perfect fit. And so what we're doing is like, trying to give more of a voice to diverse books and letting, because especially, in Virginia, we're having a lot of issues with book banning going on in schools. And so
Still happening, huh?
it's still happening, and it's so sad, and a lot of the books that are targeted are books like, featuring people of color or people from LGBTQ plus communities. And I just, I'm a mother too as well, not only an educator. And I just really want to make sure that when my kids are old enough to start going, to their school libraries or media centers, they're like seeing representation. They're seeing characters that, reflect their identity. And
Right.
so I'm a huge proponent of making sure that these books are accessible to students. So this is a really neat conference where I get to talk directly to K through 12 educators and English teachers, and really kind of talk about the importance of like making sure we have access to those novels in the classroom. So yeah, I'm excited about it. It's actually on my dad's 60th birthday. It's the day of the keynote.
Oh, wow. Now how are you
Yeah.
going to put that time?
You said, how will I manage that time?
How are you going to split that time?
You know what? I'm thankful that at least he's like within an hour away, so I could probably, knock out that conference in the morning and then party with my dad later on that evening. We'll
you
see.
go.
We'll make it work. We'll make it work.
Are your parents still in Newport News?
Both of them are actually. They are.
We're part of what?
They're kind of almost downtown. Like my mom lives right around the New Market area. Like there was like that New Market Mall. And my dad is actually, he just moved. He's right on that borderline between Hampton and Newport News. But yeah, they're still there represented.
Yeah, New Market. I shop there as a teen.
Yes.
So that's just amazing. It's a small world. Now your motivational message is to write stories so Black kids can see themselves on the page. And we've heard that from some other authors who write children's and young adult books. And there's more and more writers of Black books. But what's happening is, as far as for children and young adults, they don't get the recognition or the exposure because if more people knew about the books, more would read them. But that's part of what we try to do on this show, is to make the information available so people can even know about the books that are available. And I personally have learned about so many new authors and books, and have bought so many books and things that I wouldn't have known about it unless there was a show like this, which there isn't. So if I should say so myself, me and Rhonda, we do something that's really different, and we do it every week, and we've been doing it every week for almost 2 years. So
this is a wonderful platform. I love that. I love that you're highlighting and giving, allowing these voices to be heard and exposing them to, wider audiences. I think that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we doing. We enjoy meeting so many different authors each week.
We really do.
This is a great platform.
And as I've said before, my book budget has exploded since this show.
I can imagine. Yes.
I have bought so many, but I've been able to share the new books that I've found out about with other people and other book clubs, and hopefully it inures to the benefit of the author, because that's really who should benefit from the creative, because it's all coming from the mind to the page. Now, since this is your first book, what made you take the leap from being a professor to an author, other than a dissertation? Dissertation.
Yeah. It's been a long journey. I actually, I've been trying to get published. I think it was almost a decade. I had found my literary agent while I was a school counselor, and we had so many close calls, but then the door would just close in our face. That I actually kind of felt a little bit jaded and removed from the publishing field. I felt a little discouraged. So there was a time in my life where I took the writing went on the back burner, and I was like, you know what, I have to be practical. I have bills to pay. I need to make sure that I have a career plan. So, I decided to pursue my PhD at that point so I could take a step up in my career. And, I focused on my studies, but again, the voices of my former students, just kind of realizing, and then I saw this wonderful movement with We Need Diverse Books, and there were so many notable authors that, in the YA realm that came out, like Angie Thomas and Nick Stone. And I was like, wow, they're doing these amazing things. And, and their voices is getting out there, their messages is getting out there. If they could do that, I could represent for my students, my kids that were near Newport News. And so I think all that kind of lit a fire under me and just kind of gave me the permission to give it another try,
Wonderful.
Well, you're not alone, because there are a lot of authors who took years to get their first book published. Some people say it's 15 years, 20 years sometimes. So
but the point is that you stuck with it, though.
kudos.
You gave yourself time to be discouraged. Or you gave yourself permission to be discouraged. A lot of times we, and especially as African American women, we don't want to admit that we're discouraged or that we're sad.
Yeah.
We always have to have this strong Black woman persona.
You got to put on the cape.
Exactly. We always
Yeah.
wear a cape and put an S on our chest. But
Yep.
sometimes you have to give yourself permission to feel the way you feel. And then once you've gotten through that stage, you dust yourself off and you jump right back on that horse and you ride. And that's what you did. And now you have a book and you have another book that's going to be published in 2023.
Yes, I do. I'm so excited. My editors just sent me my notes earlier this week. I peeked at the email and I was like, ah! But I'm ready to dive back into it. I'm very excited about it. Tentative is right now. It's called Our Town is on Fire, and it focuses. It's another teen novel, and it focuses on this whole notion that what would you do if your best friend was the next internet Karen? If you find out that, you know, somebody that you grew up with who's like a sister to
I
you.
need to read that. That sounds
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
You didn't know that your friend was like that.
Yes.
I love
Because I
it.
try to imagine like what would happen if that was me? Because when I grew up, I had a lot of white female friends in high school, and now, you know, I'm seeing like all these the dynamics with social media and seeing, you know, people calling the cops on people for no reason and putting black bodies at harm. And I'm like, well, what would happen if I found out that was a layer for one of my friends while I was in high school with them? And so, you know, that's going to be like the premise of the next one, with a little bit of like mystery thriller elements. So yeah.
Wow. So will it be students finding out another fellow student is a Karen?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
And I think so. They're called the younger ones. I think when they're young that age, they're Becky's. So it's like a Karen in training.
Right.
Yeah.
I need somebody to write a book about a Black Karen, because those are the ones.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, I didn't know about
Yes.
the Black Karens.
Oh, there's some Black Karens out there. Yes.
I had to tell the mother of one of my daughter's former roommates, because she did something that could have gotten this young man into a lot of trouble. And I said, we have enough Karens in this world. So you could have gotten this boy into a lot of trouble when all you had to do was just talk to him. And, you know, I had to break that down to him. And a lot of times, you know, we're so busy trying to tell.
Yep.
We don't think about how we're affecting people. I'm not going to say we, because I don't do it, but those other people.
Do we have a name for the Black Karen yet?
No, I don't think we do.
We should give a name. We should come up with a name for that. Yeah.
I don't know what it will be. I don't know if we would make it like similar to Karen, but, you know, kind of ethnic, or just a completely different one.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know who came up with Karen in the first place. You know, when it started, and then it just like spread like wildfire.
I feel like Karen came from that joke that Chadwick Boseman made on Saturday Night Live. So if you didn't see it, what happened was it was the Black Family Feud. Or Black Jeopardy.
No, it was Black Jeopardy.
Yeah, it was Black.
I saw that.
And so they said, what do you say when your friend Karen or your coworker Karen wants to bring the potato salad?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Was pretending to be T'Challa, and he said, "No, Karen, you need you keep that bland ass potato salad to yourself."
To find this, I have not seen that.
Oh, yes. Go on YouTube. Go on YouTube.
I'm gonna go on YouTube after this and find that.
I tell you what, I followed you on Instagram because I have it posted on there somewhere.
Okay, yes, I will find it.
Funny.
Thank you.
Yes. In fact, all of the Black Jeopardies are funny. So
I love them.
Just go to YouTube, put SNL Black Jeopardy.
Look up Black Jeopardy.
Hilarious.
Okay.
Deborah Thompson said the Black Karen would be called Katrina.
I love that. Yes.
That
Katrina. We are patenting that right now. Katrina.
Well, we're at the end of our time, but Pamela, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV, and remind people where they can get your book, When You Look Like Us.
Yes, I mean, usually it's wherever books are sold. One of my favorite bookstores is Brave and Kind. It's Black owned. It's down there in Atlanta, Georgia, and they did my book launch. They've been amazing. But you can find it pretty much everywhere: Amazon, Barnes and Noble, so forth. Yes.
Well,
Awesome. Congratulations.
congratulations on the book
Thank
and
you.
continued
Thank you so
success with
much.
it and with your next book that's coming out. And thank you for being a guest on Black Authors
Thank you
Matter.
for having me. Again, I think this is a wonderful platform. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're
Thanks for being a
welcome.
Take care.
guest. We enjoyed you.
Oh, thank you so much. Likewise. Take care.
Okay, you have a great evening. And we're ready for our next guest. We've given away the 2 books, but we
What's
have
the
to
winner?
say who went. Stephanie Burnham won, I believe.
What was the answer?
Morgan State was the answer for this book. Miss Chloe.
Oh,
The
yeah, that was
author
me.
teaches creative writing at which HBCU? It was Morgan State for this one. But I don't know.
On the second one.
Did anybody try to answer it?
Is Cheryl Willis one of them in the book?
No, that's the author's name.
Oh, okay.
Cheryl Wills is the author's name.
Okay,
But
how about Mary?
that's one that's in there.
Okay, Gwendolyn Hayes.
Okay. So they
Hey, Sarah!
Gwendolyn and Stephanie win books almost every week. I think that we need to have a prize for the person who wins the most books in a year. Maybe they'll get something.
Right.
I don't know.
All those books they won.
Right. Well, that is the prize. So, before we bring on our next guest, who's Quan, let me see. Oh, the Jerry Pinkney Children's Book Awards is the process has been ongoing for a couple of months now. If you're a children's author, you can submit your book. I think there's 7 categories, and we're very excited about this. Is the first year we're doing the awards, but it will give recognition to African-American children's authors and books. So the winners in all the categories will be announced at this year's book festival, but the finalists will be announced in August. I forgot the date, but if you go to jerrypinkneybookawards.com, it has all that on there and the instructions for submitting your book. So we're done with all the announcements, and we're going to be bringing on our next guest. Our next guest is someone that I've known for many years. I don't know exactly how many years I've known Quan, but I met Quan at least 10 years ago when he came to one of our first festivals. And I've been in touch with him ever since, following his work. He's been a featured author at several book festivals that the National Black Book Festival several times. So, and Quan has a new book out, so we wanted to bring him back on for that. So Quan, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. Quan was on the show during our first year. I think you were on sometime in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was
Mm-hmm. So welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
You're welcome. Now, can you turn your volume up a little bit on whatever device you're on? I can hear you, but it's kind of faint.
Let me try to.
Are you on your computer or your phone? It looks like a laptop.
Yeah, I'm on my computer. So let me see.
Maybe you could just sit a little bit closer to it.
Okay. Let's try that. How's that?
That's much better.
Well, that's better. That is
Okay.
better. That is
Okay.
better. Okay. Well, Quan, tell us what you've been doing for the past year and a half or so since we saw you last.
Writing and peeking out the window.
Right.
Yeah, I've been actually doing a lot of writing though. So, I guess that's the one good thing I say. Even not that anything good came out of the pandemic, it forced a lot of us to sit still, especially me.
True.
That is true. It is true. And you have a new book out. So Promise Broken.
Yes, Promise Broken is my latest book. Came out early March 15th.
Tell us about it.
Well, Promise, it's a little bit different because everybody's used to me writing these homicidal love stories that usually end with somebody dying or are born from somebody dying. So I switched gears a little bit and I wrote about a young girl growing up in Newark. Most of my books are set in Harlem, so I wanted to kind of write about my experience in Newark as well.
Mm-hmm.
and it's not really like a typical story. When I say that, it's because I've noticed in a lot of books the main character is always like a size 2 and has like long flowing hair and meets the drug dealer boyfriend or whatever, and they get no. This girl, she's a little bit on the chubby side. She's the product of an interracial relationship. So she, when her parents are killed, she's sent to live with her aunt in Newark. Now the trick is, it's kind of like a reverse colorism thing, because everybody in the house is dark, so they shun her for being pale because she looks white. People
Mm.
will say, "Hey, white girl," but she's black. You know, her mom was black. She doesn't really know her dad. So she's struggling with things throughout the book, like racial identity. She's also struggling with her weight. Because her aunt is real mean to her, and she always makes comments about her weight. You eat too much, Miss Piggy. And, I think kids around that age have enough to deal with without someone constantly trying to break down their self-esteem. So the things that she was enduring in that respect caused her to go and look for love and acceptance in not so good places. So it was like her insecurities caused her to make a series of poor decisions that ends up getting her caught up, and they have some very dire circumstances.
Mm.
Hmm. So you always have a lot of action in your books.
Oh yeah.
So it sounds like this one is no different.
Yeah, this has got plenty of action, but I tried to keep it grounded to telling the story of this young girl and what she was going through. So there's a lot going on around her. It's not really bang bang shoot 'em up. It's more like coming of age.
Okay.
Right. So a bit more character driven.
Right, it's more character driven. Like it has this, it's necessary violent elements, just in relation to the things that the domino effect of things going on around her. But it's really about her just wanting to be loved and trying to find herself, trying to find where she fit in. Like she didn't fit in with the blacks or the whites, so she was just kind of like on an island by herself.
Right, right. And a lot of unfortunate, a lot of young women go through that.
And that's why I wrote it like that.
Now, which book? What's this book for you? Book number? I know you have a lot of.
I think number 40 something. I would have to sit down and count, because I have a lot of books under my name, and then I used to do the ghostwriting, and then I have the pen names. It's like 40 something to date.
Yeah, that's more than I thought. But you've been really prolific with your writing
Thank God.
for a long time. So
Right.
you write full time, don't you?
Yeah.
That's what you do for a living. And there's not a lot of uh, Black males writing full time. We've lost a few, with Eric and Leland Harris and that were writing full time. But there's not, there's a few. It's a short list.
Yeah, I've been fortunate, and I guess it's probably because of the circumstances how I got published. Like the story with the 9/11 and all that stuff around there. So I felt like that was kind of like my aha moment. So I said, okay, if this is what I'm meant to do, then I'm gonna give it my all. I'm gonna totally focus on it. Like it's tricky though, because writers, it's not like we live based on like a pay scale or regular job and stuff like that. So it's
Right.
very tricky to stay competitive and to still be able to maintain yourself and your family comfortably, you know, with just being a full time writer. Because people think, everybody thinks we rich. Like, oh my gosh, you got all these books out, you're probably rich. No, I'm not working for
Mhm.
anybody else. It's just that my job is something that I love.
Yeah, I think people generally they hear about a handful of people who write books and made a lot of money, and they think that's the standard.
It's not.
And there's millions of writers who make very little money from their books. And and it goes to spectrum. There's some who are able to make a living, a comfortable living. They're not rich,
Mhm.
but they're able to write for a living, which
Let's not even talk about the authors who basically don't even have their book anymore. The book is being sold, but they're not making any money off of the book. So
Mhm.
that happens to a number of authors as well.
It does. It does, and it's really unfortunate. I always tell people that this game is worse than the drug game, because a
is
lot of
worse
times,
than the drug game.
yeah, because see, and like when
Because it's legal.
no, not at all. Because when you in the street, if you do something to me, I can do something to you back, and that's just what it is.
Oh, okay.
But like in the industry, sometimes it's a process, or sometimes you kind of have to turn the other cheek. Like, I've been through a lot of just crazy stuff as an author, and so one thing my agent told me one time, because I used to get mad about everything, and he said you have to save your energy for certain battles, the battles that are worth
Mhm.
fighting.
Well, that's just, that's in everything. You have to pick your battles.
Yeah,
You have to decide which hill you want to die on, so to speak, in terms of, is this worth me? And sometimes it's worth it.
yeah. Sometimes you
Um,
gotta, like the whole thing with my first two books. That was something that I went through for 10 years before I was able to make heads or tails of the situation. Like, it's good now. Nobody owes anybody anything. Like, everything's great. But it was just, that was something like, and I had written so many books after. People were like, why are you just so stuck? Because these were my first two books. These books were intimate pieces of me that I could never recreate. I know what went into them. I know where I was at the time. So for something like that, I was willing to go the extra mile, and it took like 10 years.
yeah. Some battles are worth fighting.
Yeah.
So, now is this book part of a series? Because I know you had several series that you were working on, and is this the beginning of a series, a standalone?
No, it's actually the beginning of something else, and it was so crazy when I first started fleshing the story out. It's like one of the few stories that I knew how I wanted to start it and how I wanted to end it. I knew, like, okay, I'm going to start this thing not to be one book. I'm not gonna put a number on it all. I'm just gonna write as,
Okay.
because a lot of times you paint yourself into a corner when you say, okay, like, because it's happened to me before. Like, all right, I'm only gonna do this amount of books in the series, and so when you feel like it's gonna go over, then you're conscious about it. So now you're trying to cram and rework and refit instead of just letting it flow freely.
It makes a lot of sense. So
Mhm.
tell me, now that you've mentioned it, tell us about your writing process. I was talking with a couple of authors over Facebook today, and they were talking about procrastination and writer's block, and how do you get past that? And one of the things I told, especially the young lady who was talking about procrastination. I said, just set many goals for yourself. One of the reasons you're probably procrastinating is because you're looking at, I have to finish this huge book, which can be a Herculean project if you've never done it before. So maybe you set many goals for yourself, like 2 pages a day, 3 pages a day, and so forth, until you finish the book. But what are some of the things that you do to help your process?
Well, I used to do that. Like, I would try to set goals myself. Like, all right, I'm gonna write 4,000 words today or 5,000 words today. I
Mhm.
think writers are probably some of the biggest procrastinators, because it's weird. It's a weird dynamic, because when we're locked in, a building can fall, and you're
Right.
locked in that story. But it can be one little thing to distract you, like your phone may ring, a text message may go off, or you may get a,
Yes.
and by the time you've responded to the email or whatever, you've lost that train of thought, and
Mhm.
you might spend the rest of the week trying to find that sweet spot that you were in before your phone rang, before you got that text message. So that's why it's easy, because I can be doing something and I'll say, okay, I know I got to do something. Let me check this email, or somebody DM me something on my Instagram, and I have to look. And next thing you know, I've been on Instagram for an hour. I done went and made a sandwich. I made the sandwich and then ate, so I'm full. So now I gotta lay down for a minute. And then I'm looking like, so it's easy. So you gotta kind of, and I have like, and it's so bizarre, because when I really, 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 really need to meet the deadline, I don't eat. Because when you eat your place, and I eat, I will sit here, and so I haven't eaten today at all. So,
Well,
Mhm.
that's not good.
and I know it's not good, but sometimes, but that's the discipline I need sometimes. Sometimes I have to be hard on myself.
Well, why
And I
don't you have some snacks, at your
know,
writing table?
because then I gotta go get the snacks, and then while I'm going to get the snacks, I may start scrolling on the internet, or I may go do so. Somebody may ask me a question, and I'll sit down and start having a conversation. So I would rather just, I may have a little snack here, but food, no, because I'm gonna be like, oh, that was so good.
Yeah.
Let me sit down, or I might be watching a TV program as I'm eating, because I'm not gonna eat and type, and now I'm all stuck in this movie. So I done wasted 2 hours on what was supposed to be just a snack.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's true. I just hate to see anybody not eat all day. It's not good. But everybody has their own process. And you can start off at the beginning with your snacks. Then you don't have to, you only have to get up to.
I actually feel where he's coming from, because a lot of people, you're locked in. You just don't want to take time to go look for something to eat. And so I'll just eat later. Let me just focus on what I'm doing. So I'm with you when it comes to writing. When I'm at work, it's the same way. When I'm locked in, I'm locked in. Sometimes my soldiers, when I was in the military, would bring me lunch back because they knew I wasn't leaving that computer.
Yeah, they know.
Oh, see, I break my stuff up because I can't like, I break my stuff up. But everybody has a process that works for them. You have to do what works for you.
Starvation.
Just make sure you have water. Make sure you stay hydrated.
I always have water. Always.
Okay.
Yeah.
My meal is a reward. Like, okay, you done what you sat down to accomplish. You starving and one side of your head is hurt, but you sat down and you accomplished what you set out to accomplish.
Oh, okay. Well, that is true. So since we've been, we've had the pandemic for 2 years, which none of us would have ever imagined, ever. I mean, it's just when it started, nobody would have ever thought it would be a 2-year thing. But I noticed you're getting back to going to events. So tell us about some of the events you have coming up over the next few months. I saw one at the Detroit event. Was that you?
Detroit Hustle and Grind. That's Michelle Moore from Hoodbook does that, and I've been going to Michelle's signing at her store. What is this? 2022. So I've probably been going back and forth signing at her store since like maybe 2005. Going for a while. So, and she started because like we used to have all these big book events, like the one you do, the National Black Book Fair. We had the Harlem Book Fair. We had this. We had that. We had AFRAM. But a lot of these things, like y'all are the last of the Mohicans, so there are very few. So she, me and her was talking one time. And she said, "I got an idea. I want to do a book fair." And boom, boom, boom. And I said, "You should," because me personally, I go to Detroit a lot, and so I know I do numbers when I'm at her store because she has like a plugged-in reader base. So I'm like, "You should." And she got it off the ground. Did 1 year, did another year. Then I think COVID hit. I think that was between the second and third or the first and third. But it's a very good, and it reminds me of how the Harlem Book Fair used to be. Like I haven't really attended too much, over the last couple of years. But Hustle and Grind is like, you get some of the veteran authors, you get the new authors, and because a lot of these new authors ain't never been outside. They only get all the time. So a lot of them are starting to come out and really see how, like, oh, this is what it's like when you touch the readers and you're making that physical contact. So that's a dope event. And then I'm doing another event, and I can't think of the name, but to save my life, I know it's going to be in Texas. In August 6th. What the heck is the name? I'll post it later. August 6th. I'm doing something.
Is it Austin?
Was it Austin? I think it,
because Austin has a Black Book event around that time.
This is something that these young ladies have put together. They're doing it for the first time, and me.
Oh, okay.
I support anybody trying to do something, trying to get something off the ground. And so they invited me to the event, and I said, "Yeah, I'll come out. I'll, give it." It's Austin. Yes, in Austin.
Okay.
August 6th, open, relaxed, free book event. MBS. I guess that's the name of the book club. Yeah. So it's in Austin on August 6th. They're gonna start. So they're free tickets, but they're gonna start doing the tickets on May 1st.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's we were virtual for 2 years, for 2020 and 2021, and we'll be back in person this year.
Oh, okay.
Very excited about it. Got a lot of interest, and having this show continuously almost since COVID began has really helped maintain the visibility for the National Black Book Festival.
COVID made it tricky.
Yeah.
COVID made it real tricky. Like,
Yes.
keep that momentum going, to stay visible and to stay in front of people. But I think
Right.
But COVID made it, you could either win with COVID or you could choose to lose
Right.
with COVID.
Right.
And that's not a hit against people who lost their jobs or anything, but COVID was a time to use it as an opportunity. And a lot of people took advantage of that opportunity of being home.
Yeah, especially the people that was getting them PPP loans.
Yeah.
No,
Well, I got my PPP loan and I got it the right way.
no,
So,
I'm not talking. Listen,
No.
they're not getting the right way. I'm talking about the people that was buying crab legs and Casamigos.
oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. The people who were going on vacations and eating at 5-star restaurants.
Yeah, they better hope that the government is slow but sure.
Yeah.
They when they might be asleep for a year or 2 or 3 or 4, and then they decide, okay, we're gonna see who really met the requirements. I didn't apply for the PPP because I didn't want nothing I had to pay back. So
Right.
I didn't even go there. But so I mean, if the people who did, I hope you spend it on business because they will be checking.
And that's the thing about it. You have to make sure that you can prove that this is what you spent the money on.
Right.
Some people didn't do that, or they were a one-person business and they felt like, okay, well, this 5-star dinner that I'm having with my girls is a business experience.
Right. Or buying a Maserati or buying 2 houses or 3 houses.
I saw the dude. They was making rap songs about it and all that. How they was.
Yeah, somebody was taking that was unemployment money. One guy was fraudulently defrauding the government and then had the nerve to do a rap video. That's just stupid.
I said this jackass.
Don't be stupid. That's the other thing. You need to be low key. If you ever watch those mafia movies, well, Goodfellas was one of them where they stole the money from this airport, and he said, "Okay, nobody,
Don't make no big.
don't do any purchases, don't put money cars and furs," and they just couldn't help themselves. They just had to go out and do stuff.
Instead of flying under the radar. Listen, I ain't want them kind of problems. I was like, nah, y'all go ahead.
No, because the government is slow but sure. They go after people, and the people who really steal the big money, and I mean billions, the ones that say, so and so, the Defense Department lost $6 billion. Those people never go to jail. And how do you lose $6 billion? It's not possible.
I wouldn't say that. There's a lot of those people actually are going to jail. They catch up with them too. And sometimes it's just a little slower than others.
Well, do they get on TV? I seem like you don't really hear that much about them.
Well, I'm not bringing that juju on myself by wishing bad on other people. So I'm just gonna celebrate Quan and his books.
I agree. I just, we just were talking about the COVID and now some people misuse the opportunity. So that just made me think about the people who lose money. But you are right, Quan. I want to know, what do you have coming up? Like the next book that you're working on, because I know authors are always working on a book, at least one.
Always. I'm working on the second installment in the Promise series.
Okay.
Working on another book that I am so in love with. But
Come closer to your computer because we can't hear you.
I said I'm also working on another book that I'm also in love with, but I can't say the title yet.
Okay.
I don't never say the titles publicly until the book is in production, because you got these people that write books in 15 days that went and took your title, and now it's a part of the Kindle Unlimited, and you got to go back to the drawing board with the title. So
Yeah.
Keep that under wraps. I also have the second installment to The Reluctant King, which will be coming up soon. Well, not coming up soon, but in the future. So yeah, just working.
Now Promise Broken, is the main character's name Promise?
Yes.
Okay.
It's so crazy. And the reason, when someone asked her, it wasn't in this book, in the next book, somebody asked her, why would your mother name you Promise? And she said, because she saw the future. And a promise was the one thing that a man would always give me but never be able to keep.
That's deep.
Because that's how
Mhm.
it was for her mom. Like the dad always promised, because he's white man with money. And he always said, you know, my Nubian queen, I'm gonna come back for you. I promise. And she waited and waited and waited, and it never happened. So
So Promise is going to be a continuing character. That's going to be a continuing character
yeah, for now.
for a minute.
You know me,
Okay.
I clip a main character and keep the party going.
Yeah. Now, how did you get started writing? Like, what led you to? What were you doing before you started writing books that kind of pushed you in that direction? So are you laughing? You don't have to tell anything that you don't want people to know. I just
I had odd jobs.
okay.
No, but you know, honestly though, people don't know I was a junior stockbroker. I've been a financial analyst. I've been a assistant locations manager on films. I've been a production assistant. I've done a little bit of everything. So it wasn't all just on the outside of the law. That was something that came later. When I started writing, what really pushed me. I used to work for this company called GBI Capital, which was like across the street from the World Trade Center. I was the youngest in the junior broker. I was studying for my Series 7 license. And you know, like a kind of a hazing thing, because I was the youngest, they would always send me into the World Trade Center for donuts and coffee for the office every morning, like clockwork. I'll come in at about 8:30, I think 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and they would send me to the World Trade Center on the ground floor. So like a couple of days before 9/11, maybe it might have been the day before, I don't remember exactly. I kind of had a moment where I just snapped at the job. I'm talking about the phones are ringing, people are yelling because the stock floor is hectic.
Mm-hmm.
I just snapped and I was like, I had enough, and I like flipped the table over. I'm talking about it was real, like I really had an episode, and I quit my job, and I'm home one day sleeping, and the phone is ringing, 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 ringing. Everybody wants to know where I am. And my daughter's mother was like, he's right here. Why would happen? They're like, oh, you're not watching the news? And we turned on the news and we saw the plane hit the tower. And it was so crazy because I would have been in the tower on the ground floor when the plane hit.
Wow.
And I quit my job. So this is what I mean when I said I felt like it was my moment in God or the higher power telling me like, I got something else that I need you to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's deep. That's destiny right there. And I had never heard that. I've talked to you many, many times. I have never heard that story from you.
Yep.
So
All because I had a little mini meltdown. Because can you imagine? You have to make a minimum of 300 cold calls a day, and the phones are always ringing, 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 and people are always yelling, 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 yelling. So you're ingesting that for 8 to 10 hours a day. So when I would get home, I would have to unplug my phone. That's when people still had house phones. I would unplug my house phone because I couldn't take the ring. And so that's what led to me snapping that one day in the office. I said, I will not make not one more goddamn call. I will not answer. Everybody go to hell. And they were like, security.
Yeah, that's a
right.
security moment.
Yeah.
It was one of the most, I had just reached my breaking point.
It happens.
And then,
Mhm.
you know, after I quit, I said, damn, dummy, now you unemployed. You should let them fire you. You got unemployment. It's like,
Well,
you know,
praise God
putting,
you weren't in the towers
I know. And I
when
was
that
just like,
happened. Well, we're at the end of our time, Quan, but can you hold your book up again and show people your book? Your
yes.
newest book, Promise Broken.
And please make sure y'all go get that setting Noah coming of age story. Young Promise Muhammad trying to find herself, struggling with racial identity, struggling with her weight, struggling with the everyday problems of the average teenage kid in the ghetto who don't want to be there.
Now, is your target audience, is it adults or teens? I know we want everybody to read our work, but did you have a specific audience in mind when you wrote it?
Not until I was almost done. When I was almost done, I said, you know what? I bet you there's a teenage girl somewhere who can benefit from this.
Mm-hmm.
story because they're going, because I have two teenage daughters. So,
Right.
the fly on the wall. So they go through a lot, young men and women, but especially young women. That pressure when you hit that age and you want a boy to like you, and you want to fit in, and you want to be cool, and it's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure.
Mhm. Well, congratulations on another book project, and we know there's going to be a lot more coming from you. As years continue, we'll be
Yes,
hearing
and
from you
yeah,
often,
yeah, yes, yes,
and
yes.
we'll have you back to the festival
Oh,
one year soon. Coming,
yeah, and tell Mr. Willie I said hello. I'm always down to come through. So
I
let me
know
know.
you are. We had a limited number of because it's our first year back. We have a small number of featured authors this year, just
Yeah, you
so
gotta
we
ease
can,
your way back into
right,
it. You gotta
ease our way back into it. So, but thank you so much, and we'll be in touch, and we'll be on the lookout for what you are doing.
Thank you so much. You guys have a great night.
You
Okay, you
too.
too.
Good talking with you once again.
Yeah, I've known Quan for many years. I never heard that story.
Mm.
So we are ready for our final guest. And as you all know, we often have bookstore owners on the show. We've had several over the years. And this is a new one. We've never had a repeat. This is another bookstore that we became aware of, and we wanted to have her on and find out what her bookstore does and when she started it. So we have DeAndra Beard, and she is the owner of Beyond Barcodes Bookstore in Kokomo, Indiana. So, welcome. Are you in Kokomo now?
No, I am not. Actually, we just relocated our store to Indianapolis, and after 6
Okay.
years in Kokomo,
Oh,
yeah, so that's a whole story. But we're in Indianapolis, just about 45 minutes south of Kokomo.
okay. Well, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you.
And
Glad to
Kokomo
be
is
here.
I've heard of Kokomo. Is it a small town? How big is
It's a
Kokomo?
city. It's a small city.
Okay.
It has about between 50 and 70,000 people. So it's not tiny, but
It's not tiny, but
it's a small city.
and
Well, I
what's
would
the
say-
Black population of Kokomo, like percentage wise?
Okay, so I'm saying it's because it sort of vacillates between 12 and 20%. So
Okay.
it's right. Yeah, so it's
Well,
a small.
I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna say now, now that you're in Indianapolis, get ready because the Sigma Gamma Rho's are coming to town for their centennial. And they are gonna probably want to know about your story so they can come and support you.
I hope so. I know a few folks in Sigma Gamma Rho, and I'm excited to welcome everybody. Well, our opening is Independent Bookstore Day, the end of this month. Our reopening, right?
Okay.
So, like I said, we were about 7 years in Kokomo, and with the pandemic, we closed in September of 2020, which is probably the best business decision I could have ever made. Oh God, because we were in a really, really big space.
Yes.
We're
Okay.
5,000 square feet, and
Ooh,
the
that
space
is a
was
lot.
created. So on the cafe and the language learning center, all in the same space. And it didn't make sense for me. If people couldn't gather there was no point in having the doors open and having that overhead. So make a good business move.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's better to make the move before you're forced to make a move. It's
That's
better
right.
to intentionally make a move. We had a book for
Yes,
10 years, so it's better to move before you're forced to move, and that's normally not under the best of circumstances when it's forced.
absolutely.
I like that your the day that you chose to reopen is National Independent Bookstore Day. That sounds like that was purposely chosen.
It really was. It was just a day to celebrate, not just my store, but to celebrate the fact that we exist as bookstores, that we're here. And like you hear a lot of times people say, well, owning a bookstore, and I know you all have heard it and probably had that conversation, a bookstore in this economy, or aren't bookstores fading? No, absolutely not. So it's right. So it made sense for me to reopen and to begin again. That's the theme of our reopening, is begin again. To begin again on a day of celebration across the country, for such important institutions for everybody.
So what's National Independent Bookstore Day? What day is that? What actual day is it?
April 30th.
Oh, okay.
April 30th.
30th.
Mhm.
Because I hadn't heard about that. Rhonda, had you heard about it before she mentioned it?
No, I know, but I know that there are a number of literary days. There's National Authors Day. There's National Independent Bookstore Day. Then there's another one. I think it's, oh man, it's a longer title and I can't think of the name of it. But there are a number of different days that are dedicated to books and authors. Then of course there's Read Across America.
Right. That was March.
Yeah, there are lots of days.
2nd or 3rd. It's March 2nd, I think it was.
Mhm.
Because we did an event on that day. And then in NaNoWriMo, that launches something. Either it starts then or ends then or something.
That's
But that's the whole month of November. But is there a day that like launches NaNoWriMo, or is it just that's the whole month?
I believe National
That's the
Authors
month.
Day.
Okay, National Authors Day.
Yeah,
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, no.
November.
It's
November.
National Novel Writing Day.
Okay, National
that makes
Novel Writing Day. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, DeAndra, I became aware of you through Belinda Miller, who's a bookstore owner in South Carolina. She's been on the show, and she watches the show often as well. And so, one of the reasons why we like to have bookstore owners on the show, well, 2 reasons. One, to let people know that bookstores are not extinct, or they're more relevant and important than ever. And also to make people aware who may be in your area, so they can support you, as customers and come in.
Yes.
And they may not know about you. So what made you go into the book business originally when you first started Beyond Barcodes?
Okay, so I'll give you the shortest version of the story as I possibly can. Everybody has a story. So I'm a proud graduate of Bethune-Cookman University, Daytona Beach, Florida. Woo, woo. And upon returning to Indiana from Florida, I decided I was called back to Kokomo, and at that time I could have gone all over the place, but I made a decision and responded to that call back to Kokomo. And I taught middle school Spanish. So I speak a few languages, and had an opportunity to be able to connect with students and loved it. But the best way I know how to describe it is I felt like, a butterfly that's coming out of a cocoon, but when they come out, they can't open their wings all the way up.
Yes.
You imagine doing all that flapping, and then their wings get stuck right here. That's how I felt in the classroom. That's how I felt in the institution, right? In the school itself. I'm not with the students. The students, gave me life. But I knew there was more. There was more I needed to offer the community, deeper ways I needed to connect with the community. And I knew could use all the things, all my life experiences to really create a space in Kokomo that was needed and necessary. And so the first thing I opened was a language learning center. So taught Spanish, French, English as a second language, sign language, Haitian Creole, and offered that to the community. And when I first opened, I shared the space with an educational toy store. That toy store, after about a year of me sharing space, decided to close. And that's how I acquired the rest of the space. And then I opened the cafe and the bookstore at the same time, knowing that to continue the same mission of connecting people through language, through words, through culture, really necessary, given the history that Kokomo and really the Indiana as a whole has, if you know anything about our history, there's a lot of work to be done. I know, just like in other parts of the country. But I knew I could make a difference through books, through words, through language, through connecting people. And so that's the short of it. I really felt called to it. I felt called to it. And after the pandemic, and it was hard work. And I'm going to put that out there. It was hard. I mean, it was very hard, not just like business. I mean, the idea of in my community offering Black and brown books to a community that, remember the percentage of Black people that are in the community, right? So 20%, you have 80%, Caucasian and other. And so it took a lot of like educating community, like, why are these books necessary? Why do everybody needs them, not just Black people. We all need to be reading these books. These authors are important for everybody. It's part of American history. These are our stories. It took a lot of work, and a lot of energy.
It was a lot of educating.
Yeah, a whole lot. And so coming out, I knew I wanted to spend a little bit of time immersed in a community where I didn't have to do that. I didn't have to like engage in that on that level. And I know going to Indianapolis, that community is already there. I already had a really large support base in Indy that were coming up, or I was coming back and forth, delivering books. But I just knew it just made sense, right? Like get into a place where I could just sort of take care of myself and still continue with the same mission. And so the space that I'm in now is going to offer that for me. And so I'm excited.
I do have to ask, you said that you were teaching Haitian Creole?
Yeah, well, I had other instructors. And so I taught Spanish, Portuguese, and English as a second language. And then I had instructors and other Spanish instructors, French, another instructor, because I don't speak French fluently, and another instructor that taught Haitian Creole in sign language. And so we sort of all, had a cohort of instructors that worked together to teach.
Yeah, I was just curious as to why you chose Haitian Creole. That's not usually a language. I have to learn Haitian Creole so I can get this job, or I have to learn Haitian Creole so I can go to so I can pass this class. So I was just curious as to why you chose to teach that.
Community interest, right? So I try to do anything I do had to reflect the community. So there are enough Haitian Americans and Haitian immigrants that are in the community or in the surrounding community that it makes sense to, the people who are traveling to Haiti. A lot of people are traveling to Haiti as missionaries, as, going back and forth, doing all sorts of work back and forth. And so people were asking, do we offer Haitian Creole? And so then another community member that he recently moved from Haiti, who spoke English, who was bilingual, and taught the classes. So yeah, it was just basically because the community asked for it. I do a lot of work on the island between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. It was important to me to be able to offer, those languages. They asked for them. I tried to find somebody to teach it if I didn't speak it.
I like that because, it shows that you were in tap with what the needs were in that community.
Did my best. And I still do. I had some conversation right now. People are like, so you leaving Kokomo? And I'm like, listen, I'm called to Kokomo. No matter what, there's always going to be something I'm going to be doing in Kokomo that has to do with community and connecting with community, but is expanding into the region, right? And not just in my beautiful city.
Now, Indianapolis for years, and I don't know if it's back. I don't know what happened during COVID, which probably they weren't having it, but the Indianapolis Black Expo has been around forever.
Yes.
And huge event. And are they back this year? Do you know?
Absolutely. We just got all the notifications for vendors, for speakers, for all the things. Yeah, they're back this year. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Oh no, it is one of the largest Black expos, which is also oxymoron. You're like, really? One of the largest Black expos in the country is in Indianapolis.
Well, there was also the Circle City Classic. Was that there?
Yeah, and that happens in October.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people don't know, but being retired military, where I went to not basic training but advanced individual training was in Indianapolis at Fort Benjamin.
Fort Benjamin, yeah.
And the festival or the expo actually was around at that time, and I remember us having to put that doggone uniform on because we couldn't leave the base without putting our uniform on
in July.
Right.
Ooh, hot.
So to the expo with our uniforms on.
Oh my goodness. And it is hot. Like people who are not from around here, they don't realize that we get every extreme of weather.
Yes.
It's hot. We get 100-degree weather, and then we get the negative, the below zero weather in the winter. We get every extreme. Yeah, you experienced something, didn't you?
Really? I didn't know. I know Indianapolis had a lot of snow on the ground for
That's
months.
what I was gonna say. I experienced the cold there too. We went back
Yes.
2 months later and the snow was ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. No, we get it all. We get it all.
I've never
Everything in
been to
between.
Indiana. I don't think. No, I never.
We gotta come.
Yeah, I was planning to come to one of those the Black Expo one year. I forgot what happened, and I didn't come. Is snow on the ground now in where you are?
No, but it's an extended winter. Don't like
right. I know. That's why I asked.
It's just now reaching, let's see, 40s. We today was a warm day. We got up to, I think, 60 something. So yeah, today was a good day.
But it's not unheard of to get snow at the end of April or even
last year we had snow in April. We had like snow. You had to put your boots back on. Type of snow. It was.
I'm not gonna talk about you because we just got warm weather here in DC, so I'm not even gonna say anything.
Yeah, no, you're right. You have was it your cherry blossoms in the snow?
Right, poor cherry blossoms. They bud and boom.
And then
I watched that. My sister lives in DC, so I'm like, so sorry.
Now, what made you name your store Beyond Barcodes?
I love the name, by the way.
Thank you so much. Well, the deeper meaning of that is that we're not just selling. We're not in it just for that sting, the swipe of the barcode. That that the point of having those books there is to go beyond that barcode, to share the words and stories with community, going beyond just that sell, the consumerism, but wanting the community to connect with words and with books and with literacy in a deeper way. And so that means, like right now, we had a family that donated books that were in really great condition, so that during my opening, I'm going to a new community, and maybe everybody in that community can't afford to come to a bookstore and buy new books. Well, I want to make sure that nobody has to leave empty-handed. If you come in, then if you can't purchase the book, you can't afford it, or then there'll be books that are there that are available. It's not about that barcode. It's not about that. It's about getting books into ready readers and to people who are ready to experience the books and experience what they have to offer. Is really important to me. It's more than just that dollar. We have to have those dollars though, right? To make it. Like, let's not get it twisted. But that doesn't have to be the central focus, right? It's very mission driven, very mission focused on what our purpose is in the community.
So what are some of your plans now that you're about to reopen? Are you going to be doing any author signings? Are you in the process of collecting more books? What are your plans?
So one of the biggest things is that on the same day as our opening, we're launching a writing club for Black boys. That is called Black Scribble, where Black boys write. And I'm amped up about this writing club. My son, I have a 15-year-old son and a 12-year-old stepson, and I'm really, really engaged with the idea of the technology is what has them, and my son for years, my 15-year-old son has been a reader for, like his entire life. He really didn't have much of a choice, right? But I've noticed over the last 2 years, when going into high school, middle school and high school, that he's disconnected a bit from his writing and his reading. And so really, I tell him all the time, I formed this club for y'all. This is what's happening. And so I have a friend who is an author, Darnell Lamont Walker, who is an author, a filmmaker, a documentarian who is just brilliant, who is going to lead out this writing club that really is formed around not just getting boys and men to pick up a pen, but really to think about it as sort of self-care. Yes. And really digging a little bit deeper into who they are and reflecting a little bit, slowing down and disconnecting from devices to reconnect with what it means to tap into their creative selves. And so I think it's really important, especially for boys ages like 10. The club is open from ages 10 to 21. So it's a wide range. But I think that that sweet spot of those 10-year-olds who will still pick up a book if you present them with it. They'll pick up a pen if you'll present it to them. And so the idea really is to help them dig deeper into that through Black Scribble. So that's one big thing I'm very, very excited about. Then I'm working with, I don't know if Linda talked about the Black Bookstore Collective. It's a group of us who are Black bookstore owners. Mm-hmm. And we working together on lots of different book author signings and connecting, just using our collective power to draw a larger crowd and bigger authors, right? Bigger authors across the gamut, right? Because we're not just looking for big authors, but sometimes smaller bookstores aren't able to, get big authors. And so we're working together to make sure that every store, no matter their size, has an opportunity to have author events. And so working with them on a few author signings and really just getting to know Indianapolis and getting to know the community. I'm on the Near East Side, getting to know what it is in terms of meeting literacy needs, what else we can do, what is partnering with the school that's across the street, just digging in and understanding the community. Like I know Kokomo, get to know this area of Indianapolis so we can meet the needs in whatever way we possibly can.
Awesome. Now your bookstore collective, is it authors, is it regional? Because Belinda's in South Carolina. Mm-hmm. So is it not? So how do you have it organized?
It's national. It's national. Okay. The reason I know Belinda is because of the collective, right? So we've been meeting throughout the pandemic, and like after George Floyd was murdered, and we figured out that how much we needed each other as bookstore owners, that we needed, many of us are a part of the American Bookseller Association. We're part of other associations, regional associations, but this need to connect with other bookstore owners that understand our experience, it really has been life-changing. I mean, I just think about, I can't believe I went through the first 6 years as an owner without this collective, without this group of owners to really lean into and to, just to have a space where, oh man, there's been some of everything. There's been smiles, laughs, tears. There's been advice giving. There's been everything basically that you need to help push you along.
Supportive circle. I mean, you don't have to compete with each other. You can support each other and we do love each other, and then you can grow together.
And we do. And that's why I'm in South Carolina. I'm going to go see Belinda, right? If I'm in wherever, if I'm in DC, I know where I'm going. I'm going to Mahogany. I'm going to, I know where I'm going because we've connected in a way and figured out ways that we can support each other. And then even though I can go buy a book that's on their shelves, I'm going to come in and spend some money in your store because I know your struggle is the same as mine, right? Or I know what you're trying to accomplish, I should say. And I'm going to help you get there if I can, if I'm around, and send people in your area to your store. So it's powerful. It's powerful.
Awesome sauce. Awesome.
Now we've had people who sometimes they watch the show or ask questions of guests. And for someone who may be interested in becoming a bookstore owner, what are a couple of pieces of advice you would give them?
One, I would say press into the reason you want to be a bookstore owner. Dig into it. Like a lot of people, when you want to do something, but really understand your why. Like I knew why. Like I could explain to you really quickly, why did I want to do this? To connect with community, to share. Really, really know that and like form it and dig into it and be really comfortable with that, with the why. That's one. And then two is develop deep relationships with the community you want to serve. And look at it that way, because it's a service. It's a tremendous service that you bring to the community by offering books. And it's more than just putting books on a shelf and saying, y'all come get these books, right? But developing relationships with authors, developing relationships with community organizations, with schools. Spend time figuring out who those key players are in the community that will not only support you, but you can figure out ways to support the work that they're doing. So then it's a trade-off, it's a barter, right? It's you give. Exactly. It's a give and a take. And so I would think like those two things are the things where I would say I would begin. Know why you want to do it, because if you don't know why, then when the hardship comes, then you'll
quit.
walk away so fast.
You'll quit.
You'll quit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what we want. More Black bookstore owners, but we got to know why we want to do it, right? So we can stick around.
Yeah, and it's just like any business. There's a bottom line, and you have to bring money down to the bottom line. Otherwise you won't survive. This is any business, and bookstores are no different. So it sounds like you've done what a lot of bookstore owners do, especially in the African-American community. They expand what they offer beyond books. They either offer expanded product lines, or they make their or they make their bookstore like a community meeting place, a community gathering place. And they have, activities or speakers or things to bring people in and not only potentially sell books or other products, but just to be known as a place to go to gather. And so
always necessary. Yeah, all those things are important. It makes the space, but it rounds it out. I like to say it rounds it out. Working with artists, local artists, to offer paintings and whatever art form they have to offer. I say my big thing is I still offer food. I own a food truck, and so we do pop-up events with coffee and teas and like international foods. We rotate international street food. So lots of ways to keep people come in, get your books, get your food, get your coffee, and enjoy the space.
There you go. There you go. Oh, and by the way, Stephanie Burnham said that today is National Dear. Drop everything and
read. Yes.
I had never heard of that day.
Yes.
So many. Every day is a day of something.
It is. It is.
And I don't know who comes up with the dates and these names of, but we didn't know that. So our show is on National
Drop Everything and Read.
Drop Everything and Read Day. And
Yes.
Tuesday is book release day, and that's when the show is. So a lot of times our guests either release the book the day of the show or the Tuesday before, Tuesday after. So Tuesday is, and I guess Tuesday became book release store day. I'm just guessing, but because deliveries, it gives an extra day. Like if it was on a Monday, then you might not get your books in, until on Monday for a Monday release. And maybe later in the week was too late. I don't know. But somebody said Tuesday was book release day, and it's been that way.
Pub day.
That's pub day. For all the publishers, all the big publishers.
Always something. We're gonna make up a day if we have
to.
Right.
So
I'm reading who just published today is Take My Hand. Have you heard this? It's Dolan Perkins Valdez.
Dolan Perkins Valdez, I think.
Yes.
We're hoping to have her on the show soon with her about her new book. So
it's good so far. It's good.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, DeAndra, for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. And congratulations on reopening your bookstore in Indianapolis, Beyond Barcodes. And here's wishing you an awesome opening day.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Enjoy myself.
Thanks for being here. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay. Well, that's it for this week. I have a couple of announcements for those of you who haven't started voting for the Black Authors TV awards. Then the voting continues from now until April 30th. So you have plenty of time. You can vote multiple times. You just can only vote one day per IP address. So we've had lots of votes, hundreds already coming in, and the voting just started yesterday. So I'm thinking we're going to surpass the vote total we had for last year's finalists, because I think we had over 5,000 votes last year, and we're on pace to exceed that. So the award night is May 17th. And next week, our lineup of guests is, we have Michael Rashawn Hall. He's an assistant professor and author of cultural history. He has a new book out. We have Nancy Johnson. She's a best-selling novelist, and she has a new book out. We have Stella Williams, who's a romance novelist, and she has a new book out. And Tamika Newhouse will be back. She's the founder of the AAMBC Literary Awards, and their award process is in process now. And I think it ends the end of this month, at the end of May. I can't, but she'll tell you. And it's a very well organized event, and they have a red carpet for the winners and all kinds of benefits to participating in that process. So she's going to come next week and talk about that. And it's I think they were virtual for a couple of years because of COVID, but this year they're back in person. So that's it for tonight, and we are signing off on Black Authors Matter TV. We appreciate you all tuning in, and we'll see you next Tuesday. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a great night and a wonderful week.
We'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Good night.
Bye.